All right, so thank you for joining, and let's take a look at this graphing homework question. So I don't have the template axes that were provided for the original question, so I went ahead and um, made one of my own within the software Notability using the graphing paper here. So what you'll have here on your y-axis will represent your temperature, and then as we move along as a part of the graphing, we'll add the timestamps here, right? So each of these darker lines will represent going up 2 degrees Fahrenheit. And I have these lines here as indentations saying that we're going to break from what would be 0 degrees and start at 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And then on the x-axis, as I stated, this is going to represent time. So every single one of the darker lines is going to represent a new hour. Okay, and so we want to make sure we have those parameters set up first, because that will dictate the shape of your graph, and that's going to be important in determining the slope that we use in order to move from each point to each point. All right, so let's get started. Now, for each of these graphs, you'll see here that we're building upon what was explained previously, and so the first point or the newest addition is always going to be provided in blue, right? So we start off with our first instance here that at 6 a.m. we have a temperature of 54 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's how we find our first blue dot here, right? And so he says for the next 4 hours, the temperature is going to rise 1 degree per hour, right? And so as we make our mark here, we know that this is going to be 7, this would end up being 8, and what have you. So we know then that for the next 4 hours, we're going to move up 1 degree each, right? 1 degree each hour. So that means that I need to find what we can calculate. Well, how many degrees did we increase in that time frame, right? And so if I know that in 4 hours we moved 1 degree each hour, I can multiply 4, right, times 1. And that tells me that I'm going to move up 4 degrees, right? Simple math, right? Cool. So I know they're going to move up 4 degrees. So I'm going to move up 4 degrees from 54 to 58, and I'm going to carry over what's represented by 4 hours. So I'm going to meet 58, and I'm going to track that over to what is 10 hours, right? So this is going to be my point here where my x value is 10 a.m. rather, and my degrees is 58 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So that once I know where my new dot is, I'll use that as my final point and connect my 2 points that I have listed here, one at 6 a.m. 54 and the next one at 10 a.m. 58, right? So let's scroll down. And that's exactly what we did here. And that's exactly what we have here, right? That's nice and neat, and you won't have to deal with the messy line there, right? And so that's the same methodology that we're going to use all throughout, right? And so for the next portions, we can actually move a little bit faster, all right? So for the next 6 hours, after we've reached our 10 a.m. mark, we know that we're going to increase by 2 degrees per hour. So again, 6 hours times 2 degrees per hour, I know I'm going to increase to by 12 degrees. 2 times 6 is 12, right? So that means that I'm going to end up with a point that's all the way up here at 70 degrees, and it's going to meet up with 6 hours after. Now, 6 hours after 10 a.m. is going to be 4 p.m., right? And so once we find our 4 p.m. mark on our x-axis and our 70 degrees mark on our y-axis, we can identify that point on our graph, as you will on your graph paper, and link those up, right? So let's go to our page 2. And that's exactly what we have here, right? 70 degrees here and are linked up with our 4 p.m. Now, I'm going to pause the video here um, because this is the same methodology that we're going to use, right? Or I'm actually going to end the verbal component here, and you'll be able to see the graphing elements as I post later on in the question. But this is the same methodology that we're going to find, right? Identify the amount of change, identify your next point, and connect the dots. That makes graphing a little easier. I hope this was helpful. Hopefully it was not too confusing. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me, and have a good day.